American business magnate Warren Buffett has a saying, "Be fearful when others are greedy, be greedy when others are fearful. Buy when the market is down." That's his advice for investors around the world. It is good advice and China is following it. It's being greedy when others are fearful. China is buying businesses the world over, and this includes businesses in India. The Wuhan virus has dealt a blow to financial markets. Good stocks are available and they're cheaper, so Chinese investors began buying. But they can't anymore. Over the weekend, the government of India clamped down on Chinese investments. Now, every Chinese investment would need the government's nod. Let's first tell you what the new rules are. Any investment from India's neighborhood will need the government's approval. So this is not a China-specific rule. Delhi did not wish to single out Beijing. There was an old law, the old FDI policy. It applied to investors from Pakistan and Bangladesh. Now, the new one does not name any country. It is for anyone investing from a country that shares a border with India. So it effectively includes Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar and China. And they will all need the government's approval to invest in India now. The new rule covers everything. Additional investments in existing ventures and fresh investments in Indian companies. Even indirect investments. What are those? Let me explain. If an investor is from some other country, but the ultimate beneficiary is China or any of these countries in the neighborhood, they will all need government approval. Also, you cannot escape even if you close the deal abroad. All Indian entities will have to disclose their Chinese investments to the government. So here's the long and short of it. If your business is getting money from China in any shape or form, it needs to go through the government of India. As simple as that. The decision will protect India's businesses from a potential Chinese invasion. But the Indian startup ecosystem is going to be the one that will be impacted the most. Until last year, Chinese investment in Indian startups was around $4 trillion. China is a key source to raise capital. 18 out of 30 Indian unicorns have a Chinese investor. Unicorns are those startups that have a value of more than $1 billion. It was easy to raise money from China. Now startups will have to jump through the hoops. Earlier, Chinese companies had the permission to invest under the automatic route. They did not have to go via the government, except for some critical sectors like defense, space and atomic energy. They could invest directly. Now they must channel all investments through the government. What triggered this change? It was this move. China's central bank, the People's Bank of China, bought shares in HDFC Limited. They own 0.8% of this company. When the markets fell, they bought more shares. Today, the People's Bank owns a little more than 1% in HDFC. The disclosure set the alarm bells ringing. China had exploited a loophole in India. Listed companies have to reveal the names of stockholders who own more than 1% shares. So there may be many more companies with Chinese money that have not declared it. They may be less than 1%. All of that should change now. China will face a very different investment environment in India. The government will scrutinize all the new buys. Existing investments will also be under watch. India is making moves to block any hostile takeovers from China. Obviously, China is not happy about any of this. The Chinese embassy in New Delhi released a statement. It accused India of violating the rules of the World Trade Organization. China is calling India discriminatory. Such a claim reeks of double standards. We know how China feels about foreign investments and how China deals with them. Some of the biggest global brands cannot operate in China. It's an old story. I will not get into that today because the world is dealing with a different threat right now. There's a real prospect of hostile takeovers by Chinese companies. Countries around the world are concerned about this. Lockdowns mean loss for businesses. Some companies will survive, some others won't. They will be forced to close or sell businesses, and Chinese investors are positioning themselves to secure the best deals. They're scouting for distressed assets. Governments are stepping up defenses against hostile takeovers. The European Union has issued new guidelines. They want to have a coordinated response for new FDI, foreign direct investment. The EU might step up screening to protect key assets. Some European nations are a step ahead, like Germany. They have amended their laws. Now, the German government can intervene and open a review into a foreign investment. Spain has enacted a royal decree. Any and all FDI now needs a government authorization in Spain. Italy has introduced similar restrictions. They call it the Golden Powers Law. Australia too plans to screen foreign investments more closely. And now India has built a firewall around Chinese investments.